Hello students, welcome back to Vikas Biology. Okay, so we are discussing about the general characters of bryophytes, isn't it? For class 11. So I discussed about the general characters of bryophytes in previous video. Okay, so today I am going to talk about the next concept, that is the classification of bryophytes. Okay, so the bryophytes were popularly known as amphibians of plant kingdom as they require water for their fertilization. Okay, so and they are non-vascular plants, so they bear embryo. Okay, they produces embryo, and you studied various characters of the bryophytes. Okay, see, the bryophytes were majorly classified into three classes. Or majorly they were classified into three classes, like Hepaticopsida, then Anthoceratopsida, and Bryopsida. Okay, so there are three classes can be seen in bryophytes. One is Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida, and Bryopsida. Okay, so where the bryophytes were majorly classified into three classes. So these are the three classes of the bryophytes. Okay, so let us look into the characters of each and individual class of bryophytes. Okay, so first I will go with the Hepaticopsida, the members of Hepaticopsida. The general characters of bryophytes, it is same for all the three classes, but there are some dissimilarities between the classes. Okay, so there are some special characters which refers to the particular class. Okay, so let us look into the characters of each class, that is the Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida, and the Bryopsida. Okay, so the first one is Hepaticopsida. See, there are several orders can be seen in these individual classes. Okay, so like Carobiales, then Marcantiales, Jungermanniales. Okay, so then Sphagnales, Polytrichales, Anthoceratops. There are several orders will comes under each classes. Okay, but I am concentrating only on the classes. Okay, like the three classes. Okay, so the first thing is Hepaticopsida, the members. Okay, so these Hepaticopsida members, they were popularly known as liverworts. Mainly because the thallus which resembles the shape of the liver. Hepatica, that stands for liver. Where the members of Hepaticopsida, mainly the thallus of these forms, they resemble the shape of a liver. That's why these members were popularly known as liverworts. Hepatica, the name comes. Okay, Hepatica, that stands for liver. Okay, so these members, the Hepaticopsida members, they nearly includes about 280 genera. There are about 280 genera can be seen in Hepaticopsida, and there are about 9,500 species can be seen. The class represented by 280 genera and about 9,500 species. Okay, so the characters of the members of Hepaticopsida, they were like this. So here the plant body, the gametophytic plant body, which is thalloid. The gametophytic plant body is thalloid and it is dorsi-ventrally differentiated. The gametophytic plant body is thalloid and it is dorsi-ventrally differentiated. Okay. So, and the thallus, okay, that mainly possesses a prominent midrib. And it shows dichotomous branching. The thallus is flat. Okay, the thallus is flat and it is dorsiventrally differentiated. It shows a midrib and the thallus is dichotomously branched. See, this is just like this. The thallus is flat and prostrate. Where it is showing dichotomous branching. Dichotomous branching means two branches. See, this is a midrib. Okay, so where it divides into two branches. See, this is one branch, this is another branch. So where we can see two equal branches. That's why it is said to be dichotomous branches. Such branches are said to be dichotomous branches. Okay, so then the ventral surface of the thallus. That bears rhizoids. The ventral surface of the thallus that bears rhizoids, See here, rhizoids in these members are of two kinds. Two types of rhizoids can be seen. One is smooth walled rhizoids, and another one is pegged rhizoids, pegged or tuberculate rhizoids. Pegged or tuberculate rhizoids. There are two kinds of rhizoids can be seen in these members. One is a smooth walled rhizoid, another one is a pegged rhizoid. See, what is this smooth walled rhizoid? They were simple unicellular rhizoids. See, rhizoids in these members, they were simple, unbranched and unicellular. Simple, unbranched and unicellular. So there are two kinds of rhizoids can be seen. One is a smooth walled rhizoid, another one is pegged rhizoid or tuberculate rhizoid. So pegged rhizoids or tuberculate rhizoids, so they show the finger-like projections in the inner side. The inner side of the rhizoid, it consists of small projections. The inner side that consists of small projection. Okay, so this is what is called as the pegged rhizoid or the tuberculate rhizoid, and this is what is known as the smooth walled rhizoid. Okay, there are two kinds of rhizoids were observed. One is pegged rhizoids and tuberculate rhizoid. So remember one thing, here the rhizoids are unicellular and unbranched. Okay, so where these members, they also possess scales. I discussed about scales in the last class, in the previous video, isn't it? So these members, they also possess scales. See here, scales are multicellular structures. Scales are multicellular structures. It means the ventral surface of the thallus that consists of rhizoids as well as scales. Rhizoids are of two kinds, smooth walled and pegged rhizoids, whereas scales are multicellular structures, so they protect the thallus, especially the apical region of the thallus. Okay, and also they protect the thallus from desiccation or from dehydration. Okay, so they also help in anchorage and absorption of water. They stores water. Okay, so then internally means the internal anatomical structure of the thallus. Okay, andre ನಾವು cross section ತೆಗೆದಾಗ thallus na cross section ತೆಗೆದು microscope ಅಲ್ಲಿ observe ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ the internal structure of the thallus that shows two distinct zones. Two distinct zones can be seen. Two zones. The thallus is mainly divided into internally. Okay, andre anatomical feature. Internally, the thallus is mainly divided into two zones. Okay, so the upper zone is what is called as the photosynthetic zone, and the lower zone is known as the storage zone. Okay, see, they consist of single layered epidermis, and here and there they possess some small openings are present. I will tell what are those small openings. And thallus is differentiated into two zones. The upper photosynthetic zone. Okay, the upper zone is what is known as photosynthetic zone. So where it consists of assimilatory cells or photosynthetic cells, means the cells which are green in color. Upper photosynthetic cells like this, these are the assimilatory cells or the photosynthetic cells, and whereas the lower zone, that is the storage zone. It means the first zone of the thallus, the upper part of the thallus, that is photosynthetic in nature, whereas the lower zone of the thallus, so where that stores the reserve food material. Hence this is what is called as a storage zone. There are two zones can be observed in the thallus. This is the photosynthetic zone. Okay, the first zone or the upper zone is the photosynthetic zone, and whereas the lower zone is what is called as the storage zone. Okay, so hence thallus internally is differentiated into two zones. So the upper photosynthetic zone and the lower storage zone. And also another thing, so the epidermis of these members, they show some small pores on the surface, and those small pores on the surface, they were what is called as air pores. They were what is known as air pores. They were also known as chimney pores. Okay, there are chimney pores and air pores can be seen. There are air pores and chimney pores. Air pores, they were also called as chimney pores. Means they were meant for exchange of gases. Okay, so the thallus, the upper surface of the thallus, where the epidermal cells, they have some small pores. Okay, there are some small pores can be seen on the dorsal surface of the thallus or on the upper surface of the thallus, where those small pores are known as air pores or chimney pores, and they communicate with the external environment. It means they helps in the exchange of gases. Okay, so easily the gaseous molecule will exchange through these air pores or the chimney pores, and air pore or a chimney pore is followed by an air chamber. It is followed by an air chamber. It is followed by an air chamber. So this is also one of the characteristic features of the members of hepatic opsida. Okay, thallus internally is differentiated into two zones. The upper photosynthetic zone or the assimilatory zone, whereas the lower one is the storage zone. Whereas the upper part of the thallus that consists of minute pores or small pores, and those small pores or minute pores, they were what is called as air pores or the chimney pores. The main function is the exchange of gaseous molecule. Okay, so it helps in communication with the external environment. Okay, the internal thallus that communicates with the external environment with the help of the air pores or chimney pores, and air pore or a chimney pore that is followed by an air chamber. Okay, so that is the internal structure of the thallus. Okay, so then when it comes to the reproduction, so these members, they mainly reproduce by vegetative method as well as by means of sexual method. So vegetative method of reproduction that takes place, by death and decay of older parts of the thallus. So this I have explained in the last class, death and decay of older parts of the thallus. Okay, so by means of death and decay of older parts of the thallus, they reproduce vegetatively, and also they reproduce by means of fragmentation. Okay, so and also they reproduce by the formation of gemmae, and by the formation of tubers also. You know what are gemmae? Gemmae or gemma, they are nothing but the multicellular dumbbell-like structures which are produced within the gemma cups. Okay, so the gemma cups, they develops along the dorsal surface of the thallus, that is along the midrib. Okay, so along the midrib, the gemma cups will develop on the thallus. Okay, so especially it is found on the dorsal surface of the thallus, where it bear many number of gemmae. Each gemmae is able to produce two thallus in opposite directions. Okay, so that is about the vegetative reproduction. When it comes to the sexual reproduction, so in all the members, the sexual reproduction is of oogamous type. Okay, so the thallus may be, as I said, it may be homothallic, or it may be heterothallic. Homothallic or heterothallic can be seen. It means the sex organs, they may develop on the same thallus or they may develop on different thallus. It means either they may be monoecious or they may be dioecious. Okay, monoecious means bisexual. It means both the male and female sex organs develops on the same thallus. Such a condition is said to be monoecious. Mono means the same thallus or the same plant body that bear both the sex organs. Okay, whereas dioecious or unisexual, so where the sex organs, they develops in two different plant bodies. Okay, so male plant is separate and whereas female plant is separate. So just like in Markantia. Okay, so it may be dioecious plants also can be seen, or it may be homothallic or it may be heterothallic in nature. Okay, so sex organs, either they are embedded in the thallus. Sex organ, either they are embedded andre thallus ಒಳಗಡೆನೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, develop ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Either they are embedded in the thallus or they may be stalked. They possess a stalk, or they may be stalked. See, similarly, just like this, whereas in Markantia, the sex organs, they possess a stalk. Either they develop, usually they develops from the terminal ends of the thallus. Okay, the sex organs are stalked. So this is the antheridial disc, and whereas this one is a female thallus. Okay, and this will produces the archegonia. This is the female thallus. Okay, so this is the archegonia and this is the antheridia. This is the male thallus with the antheridia, or female thallus with the, this is a female thallus with the archegonia. Okay, see here, the sex organs may be embedded ಅಂದ್ರೆ thallus ಒಳಗಡೆನೇ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಹುದುಗಿ ಕೊಡೋದು ಅಂತೀವಲ್ಲ ಆ ತರ, or it may be stalk, it may possess a stalk like antheridiophore and archegoniophore. Okay, so for example in Riccia, where sex organs are embedded, whereas in case of Markantia and Porella, so where sex organs, so where we can see the stalks in the sex organ, a long stalk that arises from the apical notch. Okay, where an apical initial cell that develops into a long stalk, so where it bears the sex organs at the terminal ends. This is antheridial disc, where it possesses many number of antheridial chamber, and within the antheridial chamber the antheridia will develop, and whereas the archegonial chamber that possesses archegonia. You know that the structure of antheridia and archegonia, it is common for all bryophytes. Okay, so just the difference is in the length of the neck as well as in the number of neck canal cells, so that varies. Okay, so but the basic structure or a fundamental structure of all sex organs, the sex organs in all bryophytes, it is same. Okay, so whereas antheridia, it is a club shaped body or it is a badminton rocket shaped body, so where an archegonia is a long elongated flask like or flask shaped structure. Okay, so the sex organs, either they may be embedded or it may be stalked structures. Okay, so then the sporophyte here, the sporophyte that consists of the structures like foot, seta and capsule. There are certain exceptions, but most of them they possess the structures like foot, seta and capsule. So but whereas in Rixia, okay, in a plant that belongs to the class Hepaticopsida, in Rixia it consists of only capsule. There is no foot and seta. It consists only capsule. Okay, but the other members they possess foot, seta and capsule. Okay, so another important thing, the capsule that bears the structures, what is called as elaters. The capsule that bears the structures, what is known as elaters. See here, elaters are the ribbon shaped structures. They are elongated and ribbon shaped structures and possess the band within that. Within the elater where we can see a band. Okay, we can see the bands like this. So such elaters are said to be true elaters. Yenidu elaters antare. See, elaters are hygroscopic structures. Hygroscopic means they absorb water. They have the affinity towards water. They absorb water and swell up. Water absorption ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, swelling ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. They show vibratile movement. These elaters, they show vibratile movement once they absorb the water and helps in dehiscence of capsule. They help in dehiscence of capsule. Dehiscence means the capsule will break open. The capsule will break open. That is what is called as dehiscence. To release the spores. Okay, to release the spores, the elaters will help. So that is in dehiscence of the capsule. So where hygroscopic means they absorb water, they show vibratile movement, they applies pressure on the wall of the capsule. Okay, so then the capsule will break open, that dehisces and that releases the spores. Okay, so spores on germination that produces the early stages of the gametophyte. Okay, so where it is embedded in the soil, so later on it will develop into a pure matured gametophyte. Okay, so that is about the characters of Hepaticopsida. Their members were commonly known as liverworts. The plant body is thalloid, dorsiventrally differentiated. Sometimes it is leafy. Prostrate ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಾರಿಜಾಂಟಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. It bears leaf-like appendages or leaf-like structures. Okay, so that is in case of sporella. Remember what is called as sporella. Or in majority of the members where a flat plant body can be seen, it creeps on the surface of the thallus. Okay, the surface of the soil, it is dorsiventrally differentiated. The dorsal surface that is green in color, whereas the ventral surface is pale in color. The dorsal surface is characterized by the midrib and the presence of gemma cups and the presence of air pores on the chimney pores on the surface, especially in the dorsal surface. Whereas on the lower surface, the rhizoids can be seen. There are two kinds of rhizoid. One is a pegged rhizoid, another one is smooth-walled rhizoid. Along with that, the scales also can be seen. Okay, and rhizoids are unicellular. Remember here, rhizoids are unicellular and unbranched rhizoids can be seen. Okay, so that is about the characters of the members of Hepaticopsida. So some major examples are Marchantia, then Rixia, Tarzonia, Porella, etc. Marchantia. Some common examples of these members are Marchantia, then Tarzonia, then Rixia, Porella, Gengermania, etc. Okay, so these are some of the common members of the class Hepaticopsida. Okay, then the second class is Anthoceratopsida. The second group is Anthoceratopsida. Okay, Anthoceratopsida. So these Anthoceratopsida members, they were commonly known as or popularly known as hornworts. The reason is they bear a horn-like sporophyte. The thallus that bears horn-like sporophyte. Okay. So and this is one of the smallest class in the bryophytes, where it is represented by 6 genera and about 300 species. 6 genera and about 300 species. Okay. So a small class in the bryophytes, that is the Anthoceratopsida. Okay, so popularly they were known as hornworts. anta karitina. Okay, see here also the thallus is prostrate. Prostrate means it is flat and creeps on the surface. Okay, the thallus is prostrate and here also it is dorsiventrally differentiated. Dorsiventrally differentiated thallus can be seen. Okay, dorsiventrally differentiated thallus. Whereas the ventral surface of the thallus that bears only one type of rhizoid. Only one type of rhizoid. Only one type. Remember these differences between the classes of Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida and the Bryopsida. And also, so when we go further, like the characters of general characters of pteridophytes and gymnosperms and angiosperms should not get confused. Should not mix the characters. So because usually students what they do, so while writing the general characters of every plant groups like bryophytes or algae or gymnosperms or pteridophytes like that, you mix the characters. So don't do that. Okay, usually you will mix the character. You will write the characters of bryophytes and pteridophytes, and you mix the characters of pteridophytes and bryophytes. So don't do that. So have concentrations. Write the points. You write down the points and make separate tables, separate columns for each one. You write in a comparative account. So you write algae in one column, the general characters of algae, and at the bottom you write the examples and also the classification. So in the another column you write the bryophytes, the general characters of bryophytes, the classification and the examples, and in the another column you write pteridophytes. So like that you have to make. So once you see, you take a large sheet. Okay, so you make many columns. You write the characteristic features, the classification and the example. So once you see, you see all the different groups of the plants. So then you come to know the comparative differences also. Sometimes if they ask for difference, right, the differentiate between bryophytes and pteridophytes. So if they ask like that, so it is easy to learn. Okay, so don't get confused and don't mix the points of bryophytes and pteridophytes, because I have seen, okay, many students what they do, so they together all, so the character is their freshwater or marine water forms. So like that you will write in the examination for everything. Even for gymnosperms also, many students what they write, their freshwater and their marine water forms. So don't do that. Okay, so you write down all different groups of the plants, their characters, then you go through each and every one. Okay, come to this one. So the thallus, the ventral surface of the thallus that bear only one type of rhizoids. So there is no two types of rhizoids like smooth walled and pegged. Here all rhizoids are unicellular and there's only smooth walled. There is no pegged rhizoids. Illi pegged rhizoids illa. Rhizoids are of only one type. They are unicellular and unbranched and they are smooth walled. Okay. So there are no scales. Here scales are absent. There are no scales. Okay. And another thing, internally thallus is not differentiated into. Undifferentiated thallus can be seen. Undifferentiated thallus. Internally the thallus is not differentiated. You remember the Hepaticopsida members where thallus is differentiated into two zones, isn't it? The upper part is what is called as the photosynthetic zone, whereas the lower part is the storage zone. But in these members, the Anthoceratopsida members, so where the thallus is undifferentiated. Okay. So it means all cells are same. There is no different zones in the thallus. Okay. So hence thallus is undifferentiated. Okay. So here the chloroplast in these members that they possess pyrenoids. Pyrenoids can be seen in the chloroplast of Anthoceratopsida members. So but pyrenoids are absent in Hepaticopsida members. Okay. In Hepaticopsida pyrenoids are absent, but whereas in case of Anthoceratopsida, where the chloroplast they consist of or they possess the pyrenoids. Okay, and also there are no, the thallus do not produce or no air pores or chimney pores. Air pores or chimney pores are absent here. Remember the thallus in Hepaticopsida, they possess minute pores, and those pores are what is called as air pores or chimney pores. Here there are no air pores or chimney pores were observed. Okay, then the ventral surface of the thallus that bear mucilaginous cavities. Okay, so mucilaginous cavities can be seen in the thallus. Mucilaginous cavities can be seen in the thallus. Okay, so where we can see the association of some cyanobacteria like Anabina and Nostoc. The association of cyanobacteria can be seen here. The symbiotic association of Anabina and Nostoc that can be seen in the mucilaginous cavities of the members of Anthoceratopsida. Okay. So when it comes to the reproduction, similar here also the reproduction that may take place by death and decay of the thallus. Okay, that is a vegetative method of reproduction, and also by means of fragmentation. And when it comes to the sexual reproduction, here sex organs are embedded. Sex organs are embedded in the thallus. Embedded. They do not produce the stalked sex organs. Unlike in Hepaticopsida members, like in Markantia, so where we can see the stalk, elongated stalk can be seen, like Anthridiophore and the Archegoniophore. But here, these members, they do not show the stalked sex organs, but instead of that, the sex organs are embedded inside the thallus. Okay, so sex organs are embedded in the thallus. So same Anthridia and Archegonia, that is universal occurrence in bryophytes. So the sporophyte, so this is a speciality, you remember. So you underline this one, the sporophyte, the character, the special character of the sporophyte here. The sporophyte that bears food, whereas a small seta, or sometimes it is said to be seta is absent, but it is represented by, the seta is represented by meristematic zone. The seta is represented by meristematic zone, okay, and it possesses a capsule. It possesses a capsule. Food, seta, and where seta, small seta, or sometimes it is said to be absent, but the region of the seta is represented by a meristematic zone. It consists of meristematic cells. It is undifferentiated and continuously dividing cells. Meristematic zone, and it possesses a capsule. Okay, and capsule speciality, it possesses structures like a central strand, what is called as columella. The capsule possesses a central strand. Under capsule, for example, if the sporophyte is like this, these members. Okay, so this is a sporophyte of Anthoceratopsida members, where we can see a very small meristematic zone. This is a very small meristematic zone. Okay, so followed by this is a foot, and whereas the central region of the capsule, that consists of a central strand, what is called as a columella. The central strand, what is known as columella. This is the columella. Columella. Okay, so this is the central strand or the central region, what is called as a columella. What is the major function? The columella, that its major function is, it helps in splitting up of the capsule or dehiscence of the capsule. The capsule that breaks open to release a spores. Okay, that is with the help of the columella. You remember, columella is absent in Hepaticopsida members. Okay. So and here, so remember the elaters, the true elaters were found in the Hepaticopsida members, but here the elaters are here said to be pseudo-elaters are observed. Pseudo-elaters. There are no true elaters. Here the elaters are said to be pseudo-elaters. Pseudo-elaters means they do not possess the internal band. So we have seen the structure of elater, no? So when the elater that possesses the internal band like this, it is said to be a true elater. But here, in this case, in Anthoceratopsida members, where elaters do not possess the bands, the internal bands are absent. So hence they were what is called as pseudo-elaters. Okay, see, usually elaters will develop from, you remember this, elaters, whatever it may be. Okay, elater is developed from, it means true elater or a pseudo-elaters. Usually it is developed from elater mother cell. Elater mother cell. Elater mother cell. EMC, elater mother cell. Usually they are diploid in nature. It means they do not undergo meiosis. The spore mother cell, they undergo meiosis and produces the haploid spores. Okay, here the elater mother cell that directly develops into elaters. Okay, so where they are diploid in nature. Okay, so they are, you know that they are hygroscopic structures. They helps in dehiscence of the capsule. Whereas the spore mother cell only that undergo meiosis and that produces the spores. Okay. So this is about the characters of the members what is called as Anthoceratopsida. They were popularly known as hornworts, as they bear horn-like sporophytes. See, if this is the thallus, if this is the thallus of Anthoceros, okay, so where it bears a horny sporophyte on its surface, a horny sporophyte on its surface. Okay, so that's why they were known as hornworts. Okay, then the next group of example for this one, Anthoceratopsida. So Anthoceros. Anthoceros. The most common member is Anthoceros. Then Notothylus. Notothylus, etc. Anthoceros and Notothylus, etc. Okay. Then The next group of plants in the bryophytes, that is about Bryopsida. The last and advanced members of the bryophytes is Bryopsida, and they were commonly known as mosses. Okay. See, the members, the Bryopsida members, they are commonly called as mosses, and these are the advanced members in the bryophytes. They were known as mosses mainly because if they grow on the surface of the soil, they form just like the structures like a green carpet. It looked like a green carpet on the surface of soil. It means they covers almost all the patches of the soil. Wherever they grow, they cover the surface of the soil completely like a carpet. They grow in a mass. They grows in clusters. That's why the members of Bryopsida, they were known as mosses. It looks like just like a green carpet on the surface of the soil. Okay. So that's why they were known as mosses, and these are the advanced members in the bryophytes. Okay, so there are about 660 genera can be seen. The Bryopsida members were represented by around 660 genera, and about 14,500 species can be seen in these members. About 14,500 species were seen in the members of the Bryopsida. Okay, so let us look into the characters of the members of Bryopsida. Okay. See, the Bryopsida member, they bear two phases in the gametophyte. Remember, the Bryopsida member, it bears two phases in the gametophyte. Okay. The first phase is the protonema phase. You know what is protonema? The spore on germination gives rise to a filamentous structure. The spores upon germination produces the filamentous structures, and that filamentous structure is what is called as protonema. Okay, so it is embedded in the soil. The protonema get embedded in the soil, so where it is branched and grows beneath the soil. Okay, so later, just like this, the protonema is filamentous, it is branched, and that grows beneath the surface of the soil. Okay, so this is the protonema. Whereas the second phase is the leafy gametophyte. The first one is protonema, and the second one is the leafy gametophyte. It means the protonema that produces the branches, and those branches were what is called like this. It produces erect branches. The second phase is the erect branches. The erect branches were what is called as leafy gametophytes. So where they are straight and produced on the surface of the thallus, produced on the surface of the soil. So they are the erect structures like this. Okay, so they are leafy gametophyte. It means there are two phases can be seen in the gametophyte. One is the early stage of the gametophyte, what is called as a protonema. This is filamentous and it is found beneath the surface of the soil. It is branched, and where it produces the next part, what is called as a leafy gametophyte. And leafy gametophyte, it is a erect structure. It means it stands on the surface of the soil where it bears the leaves on the axis. Okay. Then the next thing is the leaves which are found here, they are one celled in thickness, means they are not multi-cell. They are not many cells in thickness, they are just about one celled thickness. The leaves are one celled thickness and consist of a midrib. Only one structure, that is what is called as the midrib. Okay, and they bear the axis. And the axis that consists of central conducting strand. They bear the axis that consists of central conducting strand, but there is no xylem and phloem. Remember, there is no vasculature in these members. They are non-vascular plants. The central axis means the stem-like structure what you see. Within that, it bears a central conducting strand can be seen. It means through that the water and minerals are conducted, but there is no xylem and phloem. Remember, okay. And leaves are one celled thickness. There are very small, minute leaves can be seen. Okay, so just they bear. So the plant body will be like this. The aerial axis, the erect branch of the plant body. Okay, so where it bear small, minute leaves on its surface, the axis is covered by very small, minute leaves. Okay, at the terminal end, it bears the sporophyte. Okay, so this is the capsule. It means the part of the sporophyte, this is a capsule, and where it bears the rhizoids, these are the rhizoids, these are the rhizoids, and these are the leaves, these are the leaves, okay. And remember, leaves are very simple structure, and it is about 1 cell thickness with a very simple midrib, okay. So this is the plant body structure of mosses, okay, or Bryopsida member. And here, remember, the rhizoids in these plants, rhizoids are multicellular, whereas in the other two previous classes, that is in Hepaticopsida and Anthoceratopsida member, rhizoids are unicellular. But here in these members, rhizoids are multicellular features and they are branched. So where in those members rhizoids are unbranched, here the rhizoids are branched, and also they consist of oblique septa. Rhizoids also consist of oblique septa. It means rhizoids are just like this. Rhizoids are multicellular, they are branched, and also they possess an oblique septa. They possess oblique septa. So that is the property or character of rhizoids of mosses. Okay. So rhizoids are multicellular, branched, and they produces the oblique septa. So then the next properties. Here the thallus is not differentiated, just like in the Hepaticopsida, it is not differentiated into photosynthetic or the storage zone. Remember that. Then the next character or next property here, when it comes to the reproduction, they reproduce vegetatively by means of fragmentation, okay, fragmentation of the protonema, and also they produce tubers, okay, and also they produce gemmae, okay. So they produce gemmae, but not like in Hepaticopsida member, they are not produced inside the gemma cups, okay, but they produce gemmae. They produce tubers by the fragmentation of the thallus, so where they will reproduce vegetatively. The sexual reproduction is where the sex organs, the antheridia, remember, the sex organs, antheridia and archegonia, they born in clusters. You remember this point, born in clusters. The antheridia and archegonia, they born in clusters. Clusters means they born in group. They aggregate together, they born in group. So not like in case of Hepaticopsida member. So where you remember the Hepaticopsida member, the sex organs that develops in the antheridial disc as well as in the archegonial disc, isn't it? But here the sex organs, they born in clusters, they born in group, okay. So where either the plants are monoecious or they may be dioecious. It means either the sex organs, they grow on the same plant body, or it means they grows on different plant body. It means antheridia and archegonia, they grows in different plants. Or sometimes what happens in case of funaria, the plant called as funaria, antheridia and archegonia, both they will grow in the same plant but in different branches. They found on same plant, okay. Remember, sex organs, they grows in cluster in these members, okay. The next thing is the antheridia. It is a club shaped body here. Antheridia is a club shaped body. It means it is elongated and it is club shaped body. Antheridia is elongated and club shaped body covered by a single layer of jacket cells. Remember, it is covered by a single layer of jacket cells. It is elongated and club shaped body, okay. Whereas another thing, the interesting feature here about the archegonia. See here the archegonia in these members, that is in the members of the Bryopsida, okay. So where the archegonia, it is very elongated. It produces a very elongated neck and produces a very broad venter. The archegonia that produces very elongated neck and produces a very broad venter. So venter is very broad here and possesses a very large venter canal cell and an egg at the base. Produces a very large venter canal cell and an egg at the base, okay. And the venter canal cells, they are nearly 6 to 12 in number. The neck canal cells, they are nearly 6 to 12 in number, okay. So hence the neck of the archegonia of the members of Bryopsida, that is the longest neck in the plant kingdom. Longest neck, especially the neck of the funaria, it is the longest neck in the plant kingdom. It means where they produce very long neck, that consists of, usually the neck is lined by 4 to 6 neck canal cells, but here in these members the neck will produce nearly 6 to 12 neck canal cells. Hence they produce a very long neck and a broad venter when compared to other members of the bryophytes. Okay, the venter is very broad here. Okay, so that is one of the property. And another thing, the sporophyte here, that is differentiated into foot, seta, and capsule. The sporophyte here it is differentiated into food, seta and capsule. And also you remember one thing, seta is the longest one here in the sporophyte. This is the longest, these members they bear the longest seta. Okay, just like this, the plant body where the seta is very longest and it produces the capsule at the terminal end. So illinda illivargu ಏನು plant body, gametophytic plant body, this is leaf bear ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Here foot is present. ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಏನಿದೆ, this is the seta. The longest seta can be seen in these members, in the members of Bryopsida. The seta is very longest in the plant kingdom. That is in the members of Bryopsida. Okay, so that is the characters of the members of Bryopsida. You remember, the plant body produces two kinds of gametophytic phases, the protonema phase and another one is the leafy gametophyte phase. So rhizoids are branched and they possess the oblique septa, and rhizoids are multicellular in nature. Okay, so whereas we can see the leaves on the aerial axis, then they bear a very long neck in the archegonia and longest seta can be seen. Okay, so that is the property or characters of the members of the mosses are the Bryopsida members. So some examples are Funaria, then Polytrichum, then Sphagnum, etc. Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum, etc. Okay, so that is, they are the examples for the members of Bryopsida or the mosses. Okay, so this is about the classification of bryophytes. So where you have studied about the three classes in bryophytes, that is Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida and the Bryopsida members. Okay, and the very important thing here, life cycle of bryophytes. So this is very important thing. See, the bryophytes mainly they exhibit alternation of generation. Bryophytes they mainly exhibit alternation of generation. So what is this alternation of generation? Where the life cycle of an organism that possesses two distinct phases. And those two phases which are alternating with each other. The life cycle possesses two phases and those two phases which are alternating with each other. So for example here, there are, you know that there are two phases here. One is a gametophytic phase, another one is a sporophytic phase, isn't it? The sporophyte and the gametophyte they alternate with each other. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಬರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. So gametophyte ಇರುತ್ತೆ, the gametophytic plant body produces gametes fusion ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, sporophyte ಬರುತ್ತೆ, sporophyte ಮತ್ತೆ spores produce ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, spores ಇಂದ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, gametophyte ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Just like this, the gametophyte and the sporophyte ಒಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು, they are alternating with each other. The two phases in the life cycle of an organism, of a plant body, where they alternates with each other, that is what is called as alternation of generation. So this is very important. For 2 or 3 marks this is asked in the examination. Okay, so write down the life cycle of bryophytes anta keltare. Okay, so athwa write down the haplodiploidic phase or haplodiploid life phase of bryophytes anta keltare, athwa usually life cycle of bryophytes anta keltare. Okay, so or what is alternation of generation, write the schematic representation of life cycle of bryophytes antanu kelbodu. Okay, so let us see the life cycle of the bryophytes. So you know that the dominant plant body of bryophytes is gametophyte, isn't it? The dominant plant body in the bryophyte is the gametophytic plant body. The dominant independent feature is gametophyte. Okay, then haploid plant body is dominant. Here, haploid plant body is dominant. And this haploid gametophytic plant body that produces gametes that bear the sex organ. Before the gametes, it will bear the sex organs. Like what are the sex organs? Here, antheridia and archegonia. It bears sex organs like antheridia. You know that this is a male sex organ, antheridia, male sex organ, and it bears the archegonia. Archegonia is a female sex organ. Okay, this is the female sex organ. Then the antheridia that produces anthrozoids. Antheridia produces anthrozoids. They are nothing but the male gametes. Whereas the archegonia that produces the egg is nothing but the female gamete. Egg is a female gamete, whereas anthrozoids are the male gametes. the fusion of the egg and the anthrozoid that results in the formation of a zygote. The fertilization, here there is a fertilization. Okay, fertilization that results in the formation of zygote. Anthrozoids are also haploid, egg is also haploid, even antheridia is haploid, archegonia is haploid, mainly because the plant body itself is haploid. Okay, so where it produces a zygote, fertilization results in the formation of zygote, and that zygote is a diploid structure. Okay, so later what happens? Zygote that develops into embryo. Zygote that develops into embryo. Here embryo is also diploid in nature. Embryo. So where the division is mitosis only. Here mitosis. Here also what is the division? Only chances of mitosis. There is no chances of meiosis here because the plants are haploid. Haploid plants alli meiosis agala. Mitosis matra agutte. Embryo. Embryo later it develops into sporophyte. Embryo later that develops into sporophyte. Okay, so sporophyte is diploid in nature. Sporophyte is diploid in nature. Embryo develops into sporophyte and it is diploid, remember. The sporophyte that produces the spores. Sporophytes that produces spores by means of meiosis. Here that meiosis takes place only once in the life cycle. The sporophyte produces the spores by means of meiosis, and the spores on germination again they produce a gametophyte, and spores are haploid here. Okay, so if you see here, the haploid phase is dominant. The dominant phase is haploid. Okay, so where the life cycle can be seen haplontic or haploid life phase with a one diploid phase. Haploid plant body, the dominant plant body is a gametophytic plant body and that is haploid, and with only one diploid phase, that is the sporophyte is a diploid phase. So zygote, embryo and sporophyte, they are the diploid phase. Okay, spore, gametophyte, sex organs, the gametes, almost all, majority of them they are haploid phases. Hence the life cycle in bryophytes it is said to be haplodiploidic. Life cycle can be seen. Okay, haplodiploid life cycle can be seen. So haploid phase is dominant. That's why haplo first comes. Haplontic. Okay, gametophytic, the haploid plant body where it produces a diploid sporophyte. Haplodiploidic life cycle or haploid diploid life cycle can be seen in bryophytes. Okay, the haploid plant body produces the diploid sporophyte. So it means it bears the sex organs antheridia and archegonia, whereas they produce gametes like anthrozoids and the egg, whereas both of them they fuse together forming the zygote. Zygote undergoes mitosis, produces an embryo. Embryo that directly develops into sporophyte. Sporophyte is also diploid in nature. Then the sporophyte produces spore mother cells. Spore mother cell undergoes meiosis. You can include spore mother cells also here. Sporophyte produces spore mother cells. Spore mother cells are also diploid. Spore mother cell that undergoes meiosis produces the spores. Sporophytally direct meiosis agala. Sporophyte produce spore mother cells. Spore mother cells undergo meiosis, and where the spores are produced, and spore that germinates to produce as a gametophyte. Okay, so this is the life cycle of bryophytes. Okay, haploid diploid life cycle or haplodiploidic life cycle. Okay, then so once you observe this, you came to know about, if you observe the two structures, one is a spore, another one is a zygote. You remember these two structures, one is spore, another one is a zygote. Spore is haploid and zygote is diploid in nature, isn't it? Remember, spore is the mother cell of gametophytic generation. Spore is the mother cell of gametophytic generation. Yake? Because gametophyte barade spore in the. Spore is the mother cell of gametophyte or gametophytic generation. Because gametophyte formation agade adrinda spore in the. Hangagi spore na navenanta kariತೀವಿ, it is considered as a mother cell of gametophytic generation. Whereas zygote in the end barutte, the zygote that develops into sporophyte, isn't it? Hence zygote is considered as the mother cell of sporophytic generation. Remember these two terms. Spore is a mother cell of gametophytic generation because the gametophyte that comes by the germination of the spore, whereas zygote is the mother cell of sporophytic generation because sporophyte is developed from the zygote. The sporophyte is developed from the zygote. Hence, zygote is considered as a mother cell of sporophytic generation, and spore is considered as a mother cell of gametophytic generation. Okay. So, this is about the general characters and classification of bryophytes. So, hereby we have completed the next groups of plants, that is about the bryophytes, where we studied about the general characters and the classification of the bryophytes. Okay, so in next video, I come back with the next video, that is about the next group of plants, that is the vascular cryptogams. They are nothing but the pteridophytes. So I explain the characters and classification of pteridophytes in the next video. Okay, thank you.